when the time is right. Thank you very much. This is a very special show for each one of us. We go live every Friday night, and we have a variety of different guests, actors, musicians, entertainers, directors, fighters, boxers. But tonight is a very special show. This is about a girl who was 21 years old when she got killed. Yes. Roxana Sorina Buta. This show is in memory of her. We have her mother here with us, Cristina Oprea.
Yes.
Thank you very
Hello.
much for coming by.
Thank you
very
for having
nice
me.
meeting you. Absolutely. And we have here Matthew DeOreo, right? That's how you pronounce your name?
Matthew DeOreo, yes.
There's a picture there. There she is, beautiful, young, stunning girl. So can we talk about what happened?
Yeah, so we are here tonight just to tell the story of what happened. In May 24, 2012, my only daughter, Roxana Buta, she was killed in a hit and run by crossing on a crosswalk with a green light ahead. Also, we are here to discuss about the huge injustice that took place.
I had difficult to talk about this. Even it's difficult for me to listening, and it is hard for me to even ask you because I know this is a very delicate subject, and it's
yes, it is.
It is emotional and is hard.
Well, she was my only child.
She was your only daughter.
Yes, and it's tough. We were very close. We were in touch all the time. We never depart, kind of, you know, just because she was growing up.
You were best friends.
Our relationship was beyond mother and daughters, and it will be forever. I have here with me Matt. It's my lawyer, and we will try to touch up a few points when it comes to justice and how unfair is everything after all.
He was not held responsible. This is a man who was driving 64.
Right, let me just sort of explain what happened.
Yes.
Roxana was leaving her employment. She was working for Bar 6, I believe it was on 6th Avenue.
Yes.
Right.
And she was walking to the subway to go uptown.
She was on the phone, right? When she
no, she wasn't on the
she
phone.
was not.
She was not on the phone? Okay.
So she's walking down eastbound on 14th Street. And she gets to the corner of 14th Street and Broadway, which, as I can describe in more detail later, is an extremely dangerous intersection. Okay, so she has a green light
on the
crosswalk. So she walks into the crosswalk and is immediately struck by this huge dump truck that's being driven by an employee of the New York City Department of Transportation. One of the things I want to bring out tonight is that it's how dangerous this intersection is, because a lot of people don't know this, but Union Square essentially cuts off Broadway. So Broadway has all these cars coming down of it, coming down. Then it comes down Union Square, and then the only way to get back onto Broadway at that point is to take a left-hand turn onto 14th Street, then take a right onto Broadway. Now, at that corner, anyone can go down there at any time of day and stand at that corner of 14th and Broadway, and they'll see how dangerous it is.
Right.
Because cars just think that they are naturally allowed to take a right-hand turn there because it's such a huge avenue, Broadway is, and they think that the 14th Street is just a natural progression of Broadway. And when they're taking the right, no one even thinks that there's a crosswalk there. So anyone can go there and see how dangerous that is. But not only that, there was a crater, a pothole in the beginning of the crosswalk. So it's possible that Roxana maybe stepped in it, maybe she looked at it and focused on it. It was raining earlier today, maybe there was a puddle in it, maybe something distracted her. But we have two videotapes of the incident. The first one is where you can see Roxana walking down 14th Street. She's clearly not on the phone. She doesn't have a phone in her hand. She doesn't have headphones on. She's carrying a purse. She's not stumbling. She looks like any other person walking down the street. She's not impaired in any fashion. And then in that video, you can see the dump truck
Coming.
pass her. And then another video, you can see it's coming from across the street, further down Broadway, and you can see the dump truck coming up towards the intersection, and it doesn't even slow down. It's just a continuous movement.
So in one word, all the trucks, all the drivers, truck drivers, they are reckless drivers.
Yes, they
And
they get away with
in my case, the driver was summoned with two
Right.
summons yelling to fellow pedestrian and do care. He didn't. He was found not guilty in court.
Yeah. Which
Right.
is,
For me, this is unacceptable, and we are here to wear awareness because this is a heavy city pedestrian, and we all walk on the New York City streets. And the law of this huge, the biggest city in the world, the law should be in our side, not on any criminal side. In my case, I have not justice at all.
right.
And
It's a
I'm
call for
looking,
justice.
absolutely, I'm looking for justice. It's not fair to walk home from work, to cross the street on a crosswalk with a green light ahead and got killed, and the driver to be set free. This is something that I cannot accept for you, and especially for my daughter.
For your own daughter.
Right. It's not
All
only
right.
that he was set free.
He was
He
not
was not
guilty.
held
punished.
responsible.
He wasn't punished in any
Right.
fashion.
First
he wasn't
thing
punished
he-
at work.
I'm sorry.
He
Right.
wasn't.
Yes.
He wasn't issued any fine, anything.
Right.
And the problem is that in New York State, it's almost impossible to convict somebody of negligent homicide
Huh.
through the use of a vehicle unless they're completely drunk or they're just driving like a complete insane person.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would have to add something over here. I study to learn to drive. I studied a book. And what you learn first thing is that you have to yell to a pedestrian. So this guy, having the tapes, failing, he fall to yell to my daughter crosswalk
Right.
because he ran over her. So he broke the law on the first place, but he still not getting
he got
any
away
charges.
With it. He got away.
How
do
is
you
that-
explain that?
How do you explain
how
that?
do you
Because-
explain that? Because I mean, you can have all the attorneys, you can have the truth on your side. This is a tragedy that it took place. So certainly, this is something that it changed your life forever. Your life will never be the same.
Never.
So who's responsible? Now, the city. This is what I'm asking you.
Well,
Who pays at the end? I mean, who pays at the end? He's getting what?
well, we've filed a lawsuit against the city of New York,
Right.
including the Department of
Even the
Transportation.
truck company as well, right?
Right, and we've also sued Mack Truck, which
Right.
was the manufacturer of the truck that he was driving. Now, the reason we sued Mack Truck is because when you sit in that when you sit in the driver's seat of this truck, this huge, massive truck, you can't see.
You can't see.
You
That's what
can't
we were
see
talking
in front of
before.
you. If there was somebody below 5'3", you literally would not see them.
Right.
And there's plenty of people walking around the city below 5'3". There's children walking in the city below 5'3". So there's no mirrors to look down to help the driver see what's in front of them, what's directly next to them. And not only that, the driver of this truck knew how dangerous this truck was. He's driven this truck numerous times. He knew what he could and could not see.
Right.
So he knew when he got to an intersection where he was taking a right into a crosswalk with a green light, he knew he had to be extraordinarily careful because he was driving this huge machine that could easily kill somebody. And the fact is that not only did he run her over, he never stopped.
Right,
He
Right.
kept
the hit
going.
and run
It was a hit
is
and
what
run.
is the most upsetting.
Right.
How do you explain that to a parent? I mean, it's like, how do you explain it to a parent? You get a call and say, listen, this is what happened. The man, he just ran away. He, you guys,
Well,
you know what? It's upsetting for me to even talk about it because I keep reading it. I just kept reading the links that I got from my associate producer, Charles Casano. And I keep reading it and I said, I can't believe it that he got away with it.
Yes, well, it's another thing that really bothers me and upsets me is the fact that police took 8 days to find
but the
this
police
guy.
is-
Well, this is a big, huge question. I know for a fact that all the trucks are monitored. They knew exactly where the truck is
Right,
at that second,
right.
and they knew it's a city truck. It shouldn't take 8 days, and
Right,
for
but-
some reason, it took that long, so they have no proof that he was drunk. Maybe he was drunk, I don't know. Do they
Right.
know? They don't know.
They don't know.
Maybe he was drugged, maybe God knows. Maybe his
He
light
was talking
didn't
on- he was
work.
I mean, this,
What could you accuse? But this is the thing.
This-
This law, this I didn't see her, has to stop. I didn't see her, and you get scot-free. This has to stop. When it comes to the law of New York City,
Yeah.
based on what you say, they took his words and they left me with no replica. I have no replica to it. I can fight who to fight that are
Right.
nothing to go on to fight for, because they took his word. He's not guilty. Who killed my daughter? If he didn't, I need to know.
and one thing that I would like to bring up is that this driver, his name was Harry Robinson.
Harry Robinson, 64 years old, right?
62.
62.
A DOT employee.
Okay.
He was convicted I believe in June 2010 of driving a vehicle while using a cell phone. So, did the city know about that? Was he disciplined at all? Because if his job function was driving a car, what happened? Was the city notified about that? Did they know about that? Did they supervise him more?
So that
it
was in 2010.
2010.
He was already a city employee at that time.
Yeah. So, and another issue that I'd like to bring up is that there was a law that was enacted in 2010 for these types of traffic accidents. It's called the Haley and Diego law. It's a New York State law that was enacted because there was a gap between, ordinary traffic violations and negligent homicide through use of a vehicle. So they wanted to fill the gap. So they instituted this law. It could be a fine up to $750. You can spend up to 15 days in jail, and to violate this law, it's just you're driving a car without reasonable care.
Right.
Now, this situation is a perfect. It's a perfect example of how this statute should have been used to punish people who drive carelessly, in this case, extremely recklessly, and kill somebody.
Right.
And
But how do you prove negligence? How do you prove negligence from the state of New York? How do you prove it?
against the state of New York?
Yes.
Well, the state of New York is guilty for his negligence, is liable for his
Right.
negligence by vicarious liability because they're his employer. They're automatically liable for that.
Right.
Because it was
But like what I'm saying, this is the state of New York. This is not a small.
It's not a small city.
It's not a small city. We're talking about the biggest
it's-
city.
He was
in
a
the
city
world.
employee, so that it's New York City who's the defendant, not the state of New York.
Okay.
We're not suing the state of New York.
It's New York City.
Is it okay?
We're suing the New York City Department of
Department of
Transportation,
Transportation.
who was his employer, and thereby New York City is also a defendant. Now, because he was driving within the scope of his employment, and part of his duties was to drive a truck, when he ran over Roxana, that was within the scope of his employment because he was driving on that street. So they're automatically liable for his